ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वराः गुरुर्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः यश्रेहस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधिमां त्वां प्रपन्नम्। ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य मा आनिष्ठः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासिः अनेन धीतेन अहोरात्रान् सन्ददामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मा अवतु तद्वक्तारम् अवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् अवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवाग्वं स्वत्सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्ठनेमि स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिपृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वा पवित्रो वाजनीव स्वमृतम् अस्मि द्रविणग्वं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कुर्वेदानुवचनम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Excellent chanting, Naina. Very, very, very nicely done. Thank you. At the start of the class, before we start the invocation shlokas, we should do 3 Om. Okay, you did 1 this time, right? So we'll do 3 Oms. And similarly, at the end of closing shlokas also, we'll do 3 Oms, right? Other than that, perfect. Okay, so we'll take some time at the beginning of the class to discuss the Anushtan, just to make sure that everybody's clear about it, because it's the first time we are doing it in the class, right? So it would be good to talk through what needs to be done and clarify any questions that may be there, and then we'll start the regular class, end it with the takeaways, and then we'll take 5-minute break, and then Anita will start the first. Anita, did you confirm the first slot? We had reserved that for you because it's very late for you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's 12:30 a.m., but I can finish it off and I can go to bed after that.
Okay, amazing, amazing. Thank you.
I think at the very outset, I want to say that it is so humbling to see all of you come join the Anushtan, do it as your sadhana. It is fantastic. And my naman to all of you for taking this entire step. For a person like Anita to do it so late at night, for Naina to do it so early in the morning, it is all divine energy that is charging us all. So thank you so much. And we are very, very excited to doing our first Anushtan with all of us together.
Yeah. So it is, I think for me personally, I think it is amazing because we get to learn from you, like just to see how much effort everyone else is putting in. It strengthens our sadhana, and that's how Sahyagya works, right? We do that parasparam. You remember we had done this in chapter 4. Whatever we do when we do Sahyagya, in a paraspar manner, we are constantly helping each other and we strengthen each other's sadhana. We strengthen the ecosystem together. So what we are doing here is a reflection of how we need to operate in the external society as well, in every community that we are part of. That's beautiful. So the way it will work is, we have a list of chanters. At one point of time, actually, this used to happen in person, or everybody used to sit in Zoom calls together. But for this year, we're not going to do that. So everybody will do it as their own sadhana in their own spaces, as we've figured out. So we'll start with Anita. So the first person who starts will also do the dhyanam, Gita dhyanam, right? And since we are doing it for the first time, I've posted all the videos that you can sing along. So we've got the PDF as well. So sing along with those. It will help you. Hopefully, if you've not seen it before, you can still read it alongside, even if it's the first time, because they are fairly simple. Okay. And the last.
I mean, Anita, of course, you can't read.
Oh, okay.
So she'll just play it.
Okay, so no worries. Anita, you play it, and here I will invoke it for our class anyway, right? So you play it at your end, and I will sing it out here as well for us. Okay?
Okay.
No
So one thing I have to ask you, the Gita Dhyanam, it's not there in the chanting thing. It starts right at Dhritarashtra Uvacha, it doesn't have that,
Correct.
Arjuna
No,
Yoga.
there's a separate PDF that we had shared a little bit above. We'll reshare it in the group again.
No, I will share it first. I'll share the YouTube link with you personally.
Yeah, but it's there in our group as well.
Just start with that YouTube link. PDF
Yeah, for the Gita Dhyanam, if it is in English, it is okay for me. But I think what Abhinav shared is in Hindi.
Yeah, I only have Hindi, unfortunately. So you play, okay, next time I will make sure that we have English versions of this as well. For today, you will play the video to, help you with your timing, so that after that gets done, then you start with the first chapter, okay? And for invocation, I will do it for the class as well, alongside you while you're playing the thing, okay? So we'll do it together. Then, whoever starts chanting, you start with Shri Paramatmane Namaha. So we invoke Bhagwanji and his blessings for us to get started, right? So we start with Om Paramatmane Namaha, and then when we start the chapter, we give the chapter name, like Atha. Atha means starting, right? So every chapter we start with Atha, and then it is the name of the chapter. Okay, so Atha Prathmo Adhyayah. You've sent those things to everyone? Yes. Yeah. So we start with that, right? So if you're reading the second chapter, then you say Atha Dvitiyo Adhyayah.
For example, it will just be easier, right? So they know what they're looking at. Oh, it's on my WhatsApp, not yours. So I'll send you an example. Just show them.
Do I need to show it? Have you all received photographs of starting and the ending of the chapter? Yes, right? Yeah. So just say, so Om Paramatmane Namaha is to be chanted at the start of the chanting. Okay. Then before the start of every chapter, we say Atha, whatever chapter name, Atha Prathmo Adhyaya, Atha Dvitiyo Adhyaya. At the end of the chapter, you will do an Om Tatsaditi. Okay, so that entire piece, you will complete the chapter. So there is this ending piece. If you're not able to read, because see, it is there in Hindi that we've sent you in pictures. In our English book, at the end of every chapter, there is English version, but it is actually English meaning. It is not English wording. We will chant along with the Gita chanting. So Gita chanting, have you guys seen that website as yet? Yeah. So if you go, for example, chapter 3, right, there are individual shlokas. So you can.
Just 1 second. I'll open the website.
Okay. So basically at the end of, starting of the whole thing, when you there's a first button, right? If you press the first button, it is going to play the whole chapter.
So this is GitaChanting.net.
Yeah. So let's
go
to
chapter
chapter 1, right?
So let's just explain this. So you have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. So depending on the chapter you're doing, you go to chapter 5. This should be done 5 to 7 minutes before your time slot.
So you're ready, right?
So you're ready. Okay. Now, you need to play the first play button. This is the chanting for the entire chapter.
Yeah.
And these are for individual shlokas. All right. So you start with the first play button, and the ending of this, the chanting will have the phrase
It
that
has
we have
everything.
shared with you.
It starts with the it starts with the introduction and it ends the way it's supposed to end. Like, for example, I'm just playing this right now, right? Right? So it had the starting, and similarly, it will go through all the shlokas, and end May, it will do the chanting of the ending of the chapter as well. So even if you're not able to read Hindi, just let this play through, and it ends in Hari Om Tat Sat, Hari Om Tat Sat, Hari Om Tat Sat. That's how we close. Okay?
And if you have 2 chapters, then I'd recommend you open both in 2 tabs. So you have chapter 5 ready to go. As soon as you do Hari Om Tat Sat, you play chapter 6 and you start with chapter 6. Okay. So just have all of this ready. And as soon as you finish, just say chapter 6 done. And then chapter 7 person, whoever's starting, will say starting now.
Yeah.
Put the phone aside, put it on do not disturb, and you can start your chanting.
Okay.
Okay. Clear?
Perfect. Is there anything else? And at the end of the whole thing, the 18th chapter, when I finish the last chapter, then we will do Gita Mahatmya followed by Gita Aarti. Okay, so I'll do it at our end. You don't have to join it on anything because we are doing it individually. So, but I will do it on behalf of the class. Like all of us are doing all of this chanting on behalf of everyone. So we will keep that in our mind that we are doing it as a part of this Sahayagya. All of us are being part of it. Sit through. So you're supposed to do only 1 chapter, but if you can, or whenever, whatever time you have, read as many chapters as you can. Okay. In general, I would advise that everybody should learn how to chant Gita at your own time and pace. So try and see if you guys have any kind of schedule or anything that you generally have. Include it as a part of that, right? Make it a part of your schedule. It could be part of your morning or evening puja, right? Just 5 or 6 shlokas, 10 shlokas, just read through it, right? It will help develop that muscle. And if you have, even if not that, then, what I do sometimes is I keep my phone. So on phone, I have a Gita app. Okay, I will show you what that Gita app is. So I read the chant, when I'm reading, I read through that and I play this in the background and I can do it simultaneously. So I open both the things. I start here and immediately I switch to the Gita app to read. So when you do that, you can practice it and you can do it anywhere, right? When you are traveling or whatever, it's that, dead time that you get to use. So I do that often to help practice. So if anyone wants to, you can use it that way as well. Okay.
Yeah,
do you have any questions?
Yeah, just another last point of clarification. You don't need to do invocation shlokas before. You don't need to do closing shlokas after. You just start with
Om Paramatmane Namah.
And you close it with the
Hari Om Tat Sat. It gets closed. Okay. Any questions? Okay, amazing.
So it may not be that accurate because of the Hindi translation, last in translation, a bit of a problem as of now.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. That's why we are doing that starting, ending. So take your time. Don't worry about it. It's all right.
And once we are done, we are supposed to put it in the group that we are done with that particular chapter.
Yes.
Yeah. And don't put any other pictures. Don't put any other
any other forwards or anything during this time,
so that
people don't have to. Yeah, we can just follow the relay properly in that chat.
And when Tuina also finishes the Aarti, she'll message Aarti done. After that, if you'd like to share, then by all means.
It's actually the second Anushthan we are doing, right? The first Anushthan was the Namjap Anushthan. This is the second Anushthan we are doing. So it's going to be fun. Yes, actually.
Yeah, one more question for me. So we are going to do it on our own pace here, or are we going to be in the video like this and, through the whole thing?
No video. No. So we used to do that earlier. This time, not that case. So there is no video on nothing. You do it in your own mandir, in your own place, and just put it on WhatsApp group that I'm starting now. And when you are done, then chapter number done. And then the next person comes in and says starting now. So it's just a WhatsApp relay.
Okay, so
Beautiful. Yes, Kakuli.
This is off this because I wanted to let you know that actually 2-3 weeks back, before this was announced, one day I was sitting and I felt like doing the Gita chanting from chapter 1 again. So I sit most of the days, not every day, but most of the days to, chant, and with a mini Gita book which has the meaning. So I just read the meaning first, then I listen to the chanting and do. But while doing it, a lot of questions are coming again. And there are sometimes when I don't, it's blank. So is that normal? And I'm just thinking that, okay, once this is over, I'm sure Tuhina will be starting another round, and maybe that time it's going to go even more deeper. So is that a normal thing to happen, that you can't grasp some of the shlokas again, and you really do not know the meaning that is coming out of it in the way you should know when you are in chapter 10?
Absolutely. So, Gita ko to aapne ye first time aap kar rahe hain. Gita will never stop, right? You have to do it for the rest of your life. They say that you go through Gita 10 times, the 11th time Gita goes through you. So one time reading literally just scratches the surface. So in a lot of classes, what they do is like, we're actually going into a lot of detail, even in our first chapter. In a lot of classes, they literally, first round is completed within a year. We've been doing this class for 2.5 years and we are on chapter 10. A lot of classes are such that they close the entire thing within 1 year. They go through it really fast, just to give everyone just a flavor of what this Gita is. And the way we are doing this Gita now starts in the second round. A lot of people do it that way as well. Like my mom's group, when they went through it like that. And she came back and she told me, oh, in your Kumar's class, because she attended Kumar's class also with us for some time before she initiated her separate class. She told me, oh, our thing is a little bit different. We're doing it really fast. And we were told, like, we were given the option, how do you want to do it? You want to go through it really fast, or do you want to go like this? We chose that, we should probably go a little bit in detail in our first chapter. So yeah, it is totally okay. And if you reach a point where you're like, okay, I don't understand this, you can always go back to the recordings, right? Find that recording through the list and listen to it again. It's a very good swadhyay thing, Kakali. So you should totally do it whenever you have time. You're on a walk or something, go listen into the recordings again. It really helps. We do it all the time ourselves. Yeah. All right. So we can start the class. Any other questions?
Sure.
So we'll go back to the class. So we had finished shloka 30. I remember we had talked about the example of Prahlad. We had talked about how he had said that he is the king of all the desires, right? He's lion amongst the beasts. And why lion? Because the way to understand it is that all our desires are like various animals, right? In general, desires are animalistic in nature, right? So the king of all desires is the desire for Bhagavad Prapti. And when that desire comes, when the king of the animal comes, all animals make way, right? So he said that he is lion amongst the animals. We'll start from 31. Rituj, will you read with us? Pavana, Pavata. No, sorry, you have to do the connection first.
Yeah. This is chapter 1131, right?
Chapter 10.
Oh, chapter 10. That's fine. The Lord mentions other representative entities and says,
Pavana Pavatam
Pavana Pavata Asmi.
Rama Shastra Bhritamaham.
Rama Shastra Pritamaham.
Jhashana Makarachashmi Jhashana Makaraschasmi
Jashanam Makaraschasmi
Srotrasamasmi Janhavi.
Srota Samasmi Janavi.
So Pavan is, everybody knows, Shastra Bhratamaham is the wielder of Shastra. Bhrata is one who is the wielder of Shastra, wielder of weapons. Jhashana means crocodile, and Makarashasmi, Jhashana means that which is, Makar means everything that is in the water, right? Jashanam is the crocodile. Srotramasmi Janavi, of all the things that flow. So basically rivers. Out of that, I am Janvi. Janvi means Ganga.
Of the cleansing agents, I am Pavan. Among the wielders of weapons, I am Ram. Among fishes, I am Chasha. Among the rivers, I am Ganga. Some more entities of sublime effects. Pavan. First, Pavan. This word denotes a gale of air. By constant blowing, it removes the moisture and dust and dries up things, making them clean. This purifying quality is a manifestation of the Lord's sublimity.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, this this one interpretation is clear, right? The thing I wanted to add on this interpretation is, if water is dirty, how do you clean that water? You have to keep putting in clean water. You keep putting in clean water, clean water, clean water, clean water, clean water. After a point, all that dirty water will come out and the clean water will stay. Similarly, our antakaran is dirty. To clean it, we need Bhagwan to help clean it. We cannot clean it with impure tool. We cannot clean a table with a dirty washcloth. We need a clean washcloth. Similarly, for us to clean our antakaran, you need a clean instrument, and that clean instrument necessarily means divinity, necessarily means scriptures, necessarily means a clean washcloth, right? Out here, Bhagwanji is saying, in air, the clean washcloth is what I represent. The air that removes the dust, the air that gives us breeze. The other interpretation of Pavan, the way I see it, is it is the subtle element of Pavan that keeps all of us alive. We breathe it. Without that, there is no life. And that is one common element in every single being. And that subtlety is, he's saying, is me. You're breathing me in. You're breathing the best of me in to keep yourself alive and engaged in the world. So if he's the starting and the end point of every action through our breath, all he's asking is, do it for me.
Yeah, so just to extend that, right? So Pavan is the purifier of the nature, okay, at a gross form. It is the purifier of the nature. How is it purifier of the nature? When you have bad smell inside a house or inside an enclosed surface, you open it up for fresh air to come in, right? It takes away bad smells. And I would have said water, right? So if water is dirty, if water is impure, you convert it into vapor, right? And once the vapor is there, then the vapors are pure, right? It leaves impurities behind. Similarly, it helps to make the fire burn by giving it oxygen. So Pavan, wind, is the nature's purifier, and that purification quality comes from Bhagwanji. So he says, of all the purifiers in the world, right? We have lots of different purifiers in the world. I represent Pavan because I am the most prevalent and the one that is like present everywhere as a cleansing, purifying agent. And the example then Abhinav gave about the pran, right? So this pavan inside of us represents the pran. So we take the pran in, and you've often heard of pranayam as a purification mechanism, right? So there are yogic exercises which involve balancing of pran to purify ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and also spiritually. Right, so pavan is nature's purifier. Exactly, Nadi Shuddhi. Right, so this all is through pran, through various forms of pavan or vayu. Okay,
It's actually very, if you think about it, observe it. If a table is dirty, you take a washcloth, you clean the table, the washcloth gets dirty. Correct? But what we say is when our antakaran is dirty and we rub it with divinity, the divinity doesn't get dirty.
correct.
But our antakaran gets clean. Right? Similarly, here, when fresh air comes in the house, as Tumina said, in the room, the fresh air is not getting dirty, but the bad disappears. And that's, I think, a great analogy on how to visualize Bhagwanji's interaction with us.
And that is why he is pavan of all the cleansing agents, purifying agents. Read.
Ram, second Ram. This name of the Lord, as explained in the Ramayana, represents the concept that he has an enduring affinity with the individual self. The vital power, Pran, is the weapon with which he preserves the physical form of the individual self and maintains it to work out its destiny and achieve salvation.
Okay. So the word, there are three aspects to this. One is the word Ram itself, right? There are so many different names of the Lord. They all signify something, right? They all represent some characteristic or some power that is meant to help us. So the word Ram means one jisme aap ram jaye, one that catches hold of your chitta, of your consciousness, okay? The one that is going to help you to become lost in him. Okay, that's why that's the word of, that's the meaning of the word Ram. Okay, so when Ram may Raman karna, to be lost in his name, in his bhakti. Okay, so Ram is somebody who your chitta, your mind will hold on to. That is the meaning of the word Ram. Now, the person Ram, one who took avatar, was considered one of the greatest warriors of all times, one of the greatest and the best wielders of weapon. And he's the greatest because he only ever used weapons for dharma. Otherwise, he never wielded the weapon. Okay? And he is somebody that we kehte ki, do as Krishna says. No,
Do what Krishna says.
do what
And
Krishna says, but act as Ram acts. So you are never asked to act like Krishna. You're not supposed to act like Krishna, because Krishna, by the time he came in the Dwapar Yuga, he has a lot of layers to his actions that may not be very clear to us when we see it upfront. Okay, but Sri Ramji, his actions are very clear. He's called the Maryada Purushottam Ram, right? So he shows us how to actually live correctly through his own life, right? So he is the greatest wielder of weapons, somebody who has power, but uses the power only for dharma. He never abuses the power that he holds. Hence, he is the greatest weapon wielders. And at a subtler level, Ramji sits inside of us through the use of, through the pran, and his pran. So Ramji is that Jivatma inside of us, one that knows that it is the Jivatma, one that is connected to Paramatma, one that has, so that drop that has connected itself to the ocean. Okay, that is Ramji inside of us, and his weapon is the pran, the vital power pran, the purificatory power that we just talked about, and he holds the entire life together. It holds all this body, mind, intellect concept together to be able to live through our destinies towards our greatest good, Okay, and he does all of this only for our well-being. So that's something that we have to remember constantly. With every breath we take, are we living the life of dharma? Are we taking his name with every breath that we take? Okay. So one of the things is like, when we are asked to do Nam Jap, there's a number that we are constantly given that you must do at least 16 malas. You know why? Because approximately the number of breaths we take in a day equate to those many numbers. So at least if you're doing 16 malas, you are making sure that with every name in one Nam Jap, you're taking 16 times, right? That is one manka. And then you do it 108 times as one mala. And then you do it 16 times, 16 malas, right? With that, you make sure that at least every breath that you're living today is stamped with Bhagwanji's name. Now, if you do more than that, then you're trying to stamp your past lives, your past breaths that you've taken, where you've not stamped them with Bhagwanji's name. Okay. So that's why minimum 16 malas is what's given. We can go on.
So I do want to add one other thing. I think all of us should actually underline the second line. The vital power prana is the weapon with which he preserves the physical form of the individual self and maintains it to work out its destiny and achieve salvation. The line is fully loaded with a lot of layers. But one element I do want to highlight, right? That he's created this world and he's given us this form of individualized self. But he refers to this as a weapon because he knows in this world there will always be a version of suffering. Maya will create delusion and it will create suffering. That is the purpose of Maya. Because that is what we have to experience to cleanse our antakaran and for us to face our prarabdha, the consequence of our past action, our past actions. Right? So, and that's why he's saying this is the most subtle, but the most powerful weapon. It'll beat any knife and fork, I mean, whatever, this gun or whatever else. This is such a subtle aspect, but it's the most powerful weapon because if a person falls for this weapon, he could be stuck for eons. Suffering could exist for eons. A sword may come and cut me, and it'll take me 8 months to heal or 5 months to heal or whatever it is. But in this weapon of delusion that he refers to, a person can suffer for a very long time.
I have a feeling that you're misinterpreting this. Pran is not Pran is not Maya.
No,
Pran is the weapon with which you cut through Maya.
But then he creates the individualized self and the return.
Okay. Nasha, yes. Go ahead.
Jasha. Etymologically, the root jasha means that which is hidden. This word signifies a crocodile hidden under the waters, which holds in a tight grip anything which it clutches. The Lord is hidden behind his manifestations, and once the individualized self is absorbed in him, it is not let free.
So why Jasha? Jasha means crocodile. Crocodiles has the strongest grip of all the marine animals. Okay? If it holds something in its mouth, you're not able to break it free. If you look at a documentary of a fight between sharks and these crocodiles, you will see that in most cases, crocodile wins. So it's just something that just occurred to me because I remember seeing a documentary with Vedant a while back. So he's and the way crocodile attacks it, it stays under the water and it stays hidden out of the view. and then it comes and grips its victim. And when it grips, it's impossible to get out of its mouth, right? But the interesting thing about his snout is that it has so much of power to grip and close. But once it's closed, and you, with a tiny amount of just a rubber band, you can actually close its mouth, its snout, and after that, it's never able to open it again. It's a very interesting thing. Such a powerful mouth, and you're able to close it with just a little bit of rubber band. It won't be able to open it back up. That's very, very interesting thing about crocodiles. So Bhagwanji says that, so this is what Abhinav was referring to, the power of Maya in the last conversation, right? The power of Maya is extremely strong. We've used the word again and again, the word Duratatya. It is his Maya, Bhagwanji ki Maya, it is his power, right? So it is obviously very, very difficult for us. We can't just like get out of it of our own this thing. You can't expect that you'll be able to get out of this delusion on your own, of your own accord. You cannot do that. So he is that, he says, of all the marine animals, I am Jhash. I represent Jhash. Why? Because I am the one hidden. You remember the chapter 9 that we read? He's the one that is hidden, the greatest secret. Hidden but in plain view. But he's hidden. We cannot see him. So that's why he says that I am that which is hidden in plain view. I am that person who's hidden behind everything. And secondly, that delusion that I create, the fact that I'm hidden behind this whole thing, once it captures, it is very difficult to get out of it. But if you hold on to the Lord, it is so easy to get out of Maya. So powerful a Maya, and yet so easy to get out if you know the right mechanism. Because of these three reasons, he says that of all the marine animals, I am the crocodile. I represent those aspects. Okay. Have anything to add?
Just very small point. I think you've covered it well. The only small point is that it remains hidden. A crocodile can stay stationary underwater with just its snout out for an extremely long period of time, unmoved. Right? And that's how Bhagwanji stays in our life in a lot of ways.
Until we talk to him, until
we
we reach out to him. He can just stay there quietly, waiting for us to reach out to him. Absolutely correct.
Ganga. This name typifies the stream of knowledge. Knowledge purifies the self of the dross of ignorance and helps one realize the self.
So there are three main rivers that we always talk about, right? So in our scriptures, we talk about Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, and we talk about their confluence being at Prayag, and it's considered to be a very holy place. And they say that whenever, if a person leaves his mortal coil in Prayag, he achieves moksha. What does that really mean? Does it mean that you actually go to Vashi, you go to that ghat, and that's why you go there and you do the pravah of the, those last rites and all are performed there, then that person will actually achieve moksha? That's actually not the case, right? It's not the gross form of things. In certain ways, yes, there is a lot of charge there. That is true. But what does it really mean closer home? So Ganga means the stream of knowledge. It is the Gyan Yoga. Then we have Yamuna. Yamuna represents the Karma Yoga. And Saraswati represents the Bhakti Yoga. And a confluence of them creates Prayag. It is that state of consciousness inside of us where we are able to achieve moksha. And so, if we leave our mortal coil at the confluence of these three, it means that, Bhagwanji has given us that assurance that whatever is the last word that comes out of your mouth, you will achieve that. Whatever is your last thought, you will achieve that. So if your last thought is Sri Ram, you will achieve Ram. You will achieve Bhagwanji. Right? We've covered that, right, in chapter 9 when he says that to us. So of all the three things, he says, I represent Gyan of all the rivers. Why does he represent Gyan? Because ultimately, your Karma Yoga doesn't really lead to salvation. If Karma Yoga led to salvation, Gita would have finished in first 6 chapters. But it did not. Karma Yoga leads us to the purification of our antakaran. With that purification comes the ability for us to absorb the Gyan. Proper actions, proper karma yoga creates space in our life for Guru Tattva to arrive in our lives and to show us the way. And ultimately, that leads us to be able to get the Gyan. It is only Gyan that leads to moksha. Why is that the case? Why does bhakti not lead to moksha? Why does karma yoga not lead to moksha? Because what is moksha? Moksha is self-realization. Self-realization, meaning knowing who I truly am. Really, really knowing and not believing because somebody is telling me this. Really experiencing it. Experiencing it in such a way that it completely transforms who you are, right? Because it transforms. That's the nature of Atma Gyan, correct? It transforms us. We become that Atma Gyan. And so, if and what prevents us? Why do we not have that Gyan? Because we don't know who we truly are. We might keep saying, yes, this is Aham Brahmasmi, right? Aham Brahmasmi. But is your everyday experience that? Every day you wake up and you think, I am Brahma, I am limitless, I am unchanging, and I am indestructible. I was never born and I'll never die. That's not the experience. On an everyday basis, you experience yourself as a limited person who has a starting point and an ending point, right? And why is that the case? That why is your experience different, right? It is that fact that our Jivatma has accepted itself to be body, to be this body. It has accepted body consciousness. It is a manyata. It is not the truth. मान लिया है. अगर आपने मान लिया है, if Abhinav has decided that no, I am an introvert, if he has decided it, there is nothing you can say or do that will change him. If he has accepted it, it will be true for him. That experience will be true for him. He will create that experience everywhere he goes. If I have accepted that I am an angry person, there is nothing that Anita can say to me that will change my opinion of myself. And I will always remain an angry person. The only thing that will change or bring about any changes when I change my manyata. I am not this. I am an extrovert. I am an introvert, or I am not an angry person. I'm a calm person. I'm an equanimous person.
See,
these are all manyatas.
So you have to realize these are all labels.
Yeah.
Right? And these are all either self-imposed labels or labels people have imposed upon you and you take them to be true.
Yeah.
No baby is born with these labels. And this is definitely not who we are. We are the divine qualities that we read in the last chapter, right? And we're going to read about them furthermore.
Chapter 16.
That's who we really are. We've forgotten that.
Yeah.
And we've attached ourselves to the labels as being more important and useful.
And true.
And true.
So, since it is a matter of manyata, since it's a matter of knowing and accepting, there is no amount of action that will change that. The only thing that needs to change is you now changing that manyata, saying that I am not this limited body consciousness. I am not this limited body, mind, and intellect. These are my tools. I am Brahma. I am limitless. That's my true nature. So no amount of karma yoga can help you to become that. No amount of bhakti will lead you to that gyan or to that realization. Karma yoga and bhakti yoga ultimately have to culminate into gyan. And then ultimately gyan leads to more bhakti. Ultimately, Gyan leads to more bhakti, but it is all about Gyan. It's about experience. At no point of time through this entire Gita will ever Bhagwan Ji say, do not ask questions. Do not just have faith. Don't have blind faith. Everything, even when they say have faith, it is mano, phir jano. Jano is very important. you experiencing the truth is extremely important. You have to experiment, you have to learn, and you have to experience it for yourself. And not because somebody else is saying that. But that requires a lot of hard work, a lot of experimentation, and nidhi dhyasan, manan and nidhi dhyasan for yourself. Okay? So that's why he says of everything, of the Yamuna, the Karma Yoga, of the Saraswati, the Bhakti Yoga, of the Ganga, that is Gyan Yoga, ultimately, I am Gyan Yoga. Ultimately, I am Ganga. I represent that consciousness. Yeah. Vijay, you will read to this?
Now the Lord speaks about some subtle entities and says,
Sarganamadhirantascha
Sarga Namadir Tantascha
Madhyam Chaivaham Arjuna
Madhyam Chaivadam Arjuna
Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam
Vidya Vidyanam
Vadaha Pravadatamaham.
Vadaga Pravadatamaham.
Sargana is in the Srishti, in the of all the creations. Okay. I am the starting, middle, and the end. That's so we've done that before. Adhyatma Vidya, Vidyanam. Of all the knowledges, I am the Adhyatma Vidya. I am the self-knowledge. Vadaha Pravadatamaham. Of the Vadaha means when you argue or you exchange information. Pravadatamaham, I am the logic. I am the Vadaha is the logic whenever you are having the conversations. In those conversations, I am the logic. We'll understand the meaning now. Let's go ahead.
O Arjuna, of the creations, I am the beginning, the end, and also the middle, among the sciences. I am the science of perception, and I am the logic in all the arguments. Manifestation of sublimity in subtle entities. Creations. In the shape of creation, it is the Lord who is manifesting himself. Creations are like waves in ocean, the infinite self, and just as the ocean is the beginning, the middle, and the end, each wave, similarly, the Lord is beginning, the middle, and the end of each creation.
So in shloka 8.20,
Sorry?
in shloka, Vijay, can you try to mute yourself? Maybe that will help. Some kind of, yeah, okay, thank you. In shloka 10.20, he had said something similar, right? We had read it. He said, I am the Adi, the middle, I'm the starting, the middle, and the end of all living beings. Okay. And which is why whenever we look at other people, we say when the starting and the end of people is Brahma, then in the middle, when we interact with the people while they're alive, they are also Brahma. That's how we should relate to all living beings. Now here he's taking it one step further. He's saying not just living beings, all creation that you see in this world, whether it is conscious or not. I am the starting point, the middle point, and the end point. Whether it is a rock that you're dealing with, whether it is a stream of water that you're dealing with, whether it doesn't matter what it is. Behind every creation, I am the starting, the middle, and the end, not just living beings.
So let me understand this or interpret this in a slightly different way. So now that physics and science has advanced to a certain level, we know every matter, every creation at the core is made up of atoms, correct? And as quantum physics has picked up, we also understand that at the core of every atom is a nuclei within which you have these photons, right, that exist. And these photons are constantly moving particles that go in and out. The whole, and that's that particle that moves in and out in science is called God particle, because they have no idea where it goes and they have no idea where it comes from. But it does go, it does disappear, and it does come back. So in quantum physics, so this is the theory of quantum physics, where they say that all matter at the end is not
energy.
matter. It is energy.
Yeah. The
There is
whole
no such
concept
thing
of
as
matter is, yeah, exactly. It's
And
all
the second
energy.
principle of quantum physics, which is proven, is because of this phenomenon, the only thing constant in this world is change. Because at the core of the nuclei, everything is changing constantly. So when I read this shloka, I understand and interpret it to be that the essence of every object is Bhagwanji. He's given it that form for a purpose, for a reason, for us to recognize him, and that's it. That essence of every object, whether like Tina said, is a rock. The rock also has an essence. It's being able to see him in every aspect of this samsara.
Correct.
Perception. The science of
By the
true
way, if anyone is ever curious to know more about quantum physics, there is this, sorry, it's a digression, but this entire thing is very well explained in a documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know? Just listen to it. They discuss God particle in a lot of detail, which will further your knowledge on understanding the subtlety of this world.
Another one, since we are talking about this topic, there's a beautiful book that you should all read, which will explain the power of our thoughts to you in a physical way. The book where they have that experiment with waters.
That's a very business book, Presence.
Presence.
So it's a guy named Peter Senge, who's
It's a business book,
who's a
but-
renowned organizational behavior thing expert. He's written a few books. The Presence is a conversation between, I would say, 4 enlightened people, but they talk it in business context. Very powerful.
Correct. So it doesn't matter whether the context
You
is
wanna
spirituality or
share that experiment.
let them all read it, right?
No, it'd be easy.
Okay, so one of the experiments that stood out for me, or something that I remembered a long time ago when I read it, was the power of thoughts, right? And that's why it's very important for us to be very aware of what we are thinking and how we're doing. And he showed it very in a gross fashion, like, thoughts having impact on the world around us. And he showed it through the example of water. He collected water from several different sources, and that water was then crystallized. It was converted into flakes, right? And then it was put under scanner to see what was the quality of crystals that were created out of it, the water crystals. And the experiment shows how water from holy places, which has been sanctified, versus the water from sewage, has extremely different characteristic. The one that is from sewage or other such places where there's a lot of dirt and filth, they tend to have very extremely simple structures, and they tend to have no beauty about them. But the ones that come from sanctified sources, like they took also water from Ganges, the water is extremely beautiful. The structures are very, very advanced. The crystal structures, very advanced formations, very beautiful patterns in it. And then they also showed that you could take water from a simple source like tap water, and then if you infuse it with mantras, with meditation, so if you infuse it with different types of mantras, or even if you just place labels on top of it with words like Om, love, or beautiful words like that.
Was the impact of thought on water, on
Correct.
tap water, and they had several jars of tap water with different words written on them.
Correct.
And the words were like hate, violence,
love, peace,
and
words like that.
The last water was blessed by a Japanese monk.
Yeah.
Right, and then they showed the effect of the crystals it had on crystals, and they were very surprised at the degree of change.
Yeah.
Just having a label with a negative association energy had on the water that the vessel contained. And it comes back to what we were saying earlier, which is thought also exists in this. There is no form of thought. It exists in the form of energy. And
thought is an energy.
and
yeah.
even
And that
matter.
energy has impact all around us. And they showed that impact through water experiment. They also did some experimentation where they exposed water to chanting. And then they showed how the water structure changed. The crystals were so different when it was exposed to chanting. Now imagine this impact of water. We are 70% water. We are 70% water. The impact our thoughts has on the water crystals, the impact it has on us as a being is huge, whether we realize it or not. But it's a fantastic experiment for us to know. That's why when somebody gets angry, the impact it creates on our own self when we are angry is way more than any impact we can create on someone else outside or in the environment outside. We hurt ourselves the most because that anger kills us the most. Yeah. Digression, but interesting. You should read that book and you should definitely go through this experiment.
Is it a book or a documentary?
It's a book.
So-
At least I've read it as a book.
Yeah, I'll take pictures of it and share it in the class after we do our this thing today. So yeah, it's a book called The Presence, written by a gentleman named Peter Senge, and the documentary is different. I'll text you the details.
Thank you.
And somewhere, long time ago, I had read, there was a conversation with Om Swami, and there was this conversation around Tattva Shuddhi, right? So Tattva Shuddhi is a Panchabhut, right? And you do the Shuddhi of it and all. So they were asking about that. And people were talking about, air pollution and all of those things. So I remember something that stuck with me. I don't even remember in what context I'd heard of this, but basically Om Swami said that of all the 5 elements, 70% of you is water. If you can control water, there's a lot of Atma Shuddhi you can do. Okay. And what that means is, making sure that tap water, you don't drink directly from the tap because of the energy consumption. So they had talked a lot about it. Now, obviously, these are several layers higher, but basically take water in a container, like a matka or like a copper vessel or anything, right? You just take water in this vessel, let it stay, and if the energies calm down, say mantra to it or paste a mantra on it, right? It really infuses a lot of energy into that water. And that's the water we consume. Use that water for eating, use that water for drinking. Do not take direct tap water because it is highly agitated water. The amount of energy that goes into, pumping it up. And so I had read all of that and I had instituted some changes in our kitchen after that. But basically now think about our the way we consume food, the way we consume water. There is a reason we've got these different shlokas that we should invoke. When we invoke those shlokas at the time of eating food or drinking water, it's our thought, the gratefulness thought that comes in, the thought that we are feeding the Bhagwanji inside of us. It automatically changes the way we consume, the way we think about food, and it has a much better effect on us, right? When we were young, my parents used to say, ki chidke mat khana khao. Loki aa gayi. And then we would be like, yak Loki. And mom would say, ki this is not the way to eat food. Be grateful, be thankful, and eat in that state. Otherwise, खाना लगेगा नहीं. ऐसा हमें बताया जाता था when we were young कि खाना लगेगा नहीं अगर चिढ़ के खाओगे तो, गुस्से में खाओगे तो. That means that food will not benefit you. It will pass through your system. You wasted it. Yeah, Kakul.
Sorry, I got a bit emotional, but because you took Swamiji's name and I was given that 40-day ritual. So when I wrote into his office and I was really sick and the doctors were not able to understand what's going to finally happen out of me. And I wrote into his office and he gave me a water ritual because it just came up and I wanted to share. It was a very simple ritual in which I had to keep a glass of water in night before going to sleep, say what he told me to say, get up in the morning, say that and drink it for 40 days. And now I'm thinking that now I'm understanding what you're saying. So when you were saying that, about how the crystal, how it crystallizes, how it takes shape, how things kind of, you infuse it with positivity. So I think that is what he did. And that was like kind of a medicine which was working on me. I just wanted to share that. Yeah. Because you spoke about water.
Exactly. You should definitely read that book and read up about that experiment. And you will see how that now we have a living example amongst us who actually used this for a physical well-being as well. That's very powerful, Kakuli. Thank you so much for sharing. I'll remember that. And if with your permission, I'll probably share it with others as well. Okay. Yes, next one.
Perception. The science of true perception is the science on which all the other sciences are based. As such, it is Lord's sublimity, which is manifested in true perception, and thus the entire realm of science.
So there are, if you look at our Shastras, right, Shastras, Purans and everything, there are 18 types of knowledges that have been kept in them. All these knowledges now, whether it is the Shastra knowledge or whether you look at any other materialistic knowledge, like even Shastra knowledge, everything is materialistic of this world, right? All those knowledges are meant to improve our intellect. It is supposed to lead to a better knowledge of path of dharma. Another interesting thing, as we had understood before, that this knowledge, all the materialistic knowledge in this world will never end. You can continue. There will always be more and more and more left for you to learn, read. And there is a lot of effort required to gain this knowledge, right? For you to gain the knowledge of chanting Gita, you actually have to expend a lot of effort and energy, hours to do that correctly, right? And similarly, Shastras, Purans, or Vedas, or science, becoming a scientist, right? Whatever. So he says of all of these knowledges, there is one knowledge that is superior to all of these, and that is the self-knowledge, the knowledge of your own self, the knowledge of self-realization. And I am that knowledge. So we've done this before, right? So why is this so important? Why is it different from the materialistic knowledge? One, because in the materialistic knowledge, first of all, it is never ending. You acquire some, it will at some stage become stale, and you have to re-educate yourself. If you are a coder, you're constantly educating yourself. You are a scientist, you're constantly educating yourself on the new stuff. You're a doctor, you're constantly educating yourself on new stuff. Legal person, always educating himself, right? With this knowledge, adhyatmic knowledge, you will never need to re-educate yourself. Once you have acquired it, there is nothing more left to be acquired any longer. Secondly, in the materialistic knowledge world, there is a difference. You never become that knowledge. There's a difference. There are three distinct objects here. There is the knower, there is the object that needs to be known, and there's a process of knowing. Okay? Whereas in the case of the adhyatmic knowledge, these three fuse into one. They start out as one. They start out as three. But by the time the knower actually acquires through this process the knowledge, the knower becomes that knowledge. Right? So it transforms you into that knowledge himself. There is no distinction left anymore. And that's why he says, of all the knowledges in this world, I am that science of perception, science of self-perception.
Logic. All arguments are undertaken for establishing the truth. But to fulfill this requirement, they have to be based on logic. Thus, logic in all arguments lead to truth, which is an aspect of Lord's sublimity.
So arguments, there are actually three types of arguments. Okay? The first type is called the jalp. In jalp, you take a side of an argument for and against. And in that argument, then you will say whatever you need to establish the potency of your side and show the importance of the other side. And thus you're trying to win this argument in that fashion. Okay, you take a side for or against an argument, and then you talk with respect to that. Okay, that's jalp. The second type of argument is called vitand. You don't care about the side that you want to take. All you're caring about is what is the side the other person has taken, and I will find flaws in their argument to try and cancel their argument. That's called vitand. You're only trying to find the dosh in the other argument. That's vitand. The third type of argument is called the vad. Vad is when you don't take any side of the argument. You're having an honest, deep conversation to try and understand what is the truth. Where does the truth lie? That is called Vad. And Vad is the only type of conversation that is permitted for truth seekers, which is all of us. Okay, there is no right or wrong. You just have to understand the truth and you have to come to that truth. That is Vad. In all three cases, there is an underlying factor, and that underlying factor is logic. Everyone, whether you're using Jalp, Vitand, or Vad, you're using logic to try and get to a conclusion. And that logic, that subtle logic that sits behind everything is him. So he says, in Vad, I am the logic. The essence, like we say, no, in the rose shrub, I am the essence of the rose. I am that essential oil of rose. Similarly, I am logic here in all conversations. It's 11:35. Do you want to take the next shloka or go to the takeaways?
If you do takeaways, then we'll finish in 10 minutes early.
So we
Probably.
can.
This won't finish in 10 minutes.
Huh?
The next one won't finish in 10 minutes.
We can try and
probably-
quickly finish it. Do you want to? What do you guys say? Should we take the next shlok and try and go through it quickly, or do you want to?
I mean, I'm more concerned that Anita clearly.
Anita Clay will become a stretch.
She
Okay.
has to start, prepare and start and set up.
Okay.
So
All right. So let's do. Let's
itself a big thing. But
Yeah. Actually, even Dwand, everything.
everything's a bit.
We can try doing it quickly.
But this one is a big thing.
All right. So let's close it here for today. Let's do takeaways, and after that we'll close the class. And then Anita, you can start after that. Okay. Okay. So who wants to start with the who wants to do the takeaways first?
I can. The one thing that stuck with me today is Rama's this thing, right? His most powerful weapon is his breath to achieve the salvation and destiny. So if you just think over it, he is the Lord himself, right? And he can be all making things life lot easier, but his life all through, if you see, it is not a happy path at all. He has to go to this thing, go to protect protect the sages at a very early age, and then go for marriage and go, instead of taking over taking over as a king, he has to go to the jungle and then fight it over, lost his wife. Again, a lot of things he has to do. The whole journey, if you see, it is all on the tough side. That is how the typical life is going to be, and how you will have to lead by example, right? He has shown how it is going to be most difficult and how he handled everything with a grace. And with the bow is still the crucial thing. There used to be stories about Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He says to his wife, when I say no to the food, third day from that is going to be my day of mukti, right? That he already told, and she knew, because even when Gandhiji was sitting along with him for a discussion, he steps away. As soon as the food is ready, he steps away for food. So his wife picks on him, tells that so many great people are coming to talk to you and so on, but when you hear the food, you just jump out of the seat. Why so? In spite of being this level of sainthood, why you are doing that? He says that I'll have to put my attachment into something, which is what is going to retain my individual self on the ground here. Otherwise, it will leave automatically. So the highest version of it is having the breath, holding the breath, so that the natural tendency for that kind of this thing is to go back and merge with the endless possibilities, right? So holding the breath is kind of very crucial for this thing. And all this, he could have done it in a very flash of a second, right? Not necessarily he has to go through all this to prove a point, all that kind of thing. So the sacrifice of Rama is what I'm brooding over today.
Beautiful, beautiful. You're absolutely right, Vijay. So Ramji did everything that he did because he is the role model for us all, right? And Bhagwanji says that everywhere, even in chapter 3, he says that I have no duties to do. I have no attachments. I have nothing to do in this world. And yet I do duties, because if I don't do duty, then what will others do? Others follow me. Leaders always have to hold themselves to a higher standard than everybody else. Because if they don't, their followers will fall through even more. The head of a team, the head of a company, the head of the state always has to have a higher standard than what is expected below him. Always. That's the sacrifice of a leader. And Bhagwan Ji, as the supreme leader, has to, at every point of time, act as the most amazing Karma Yogi. So you can see the sun. It does not matter what happens. At no point of time does he say, I need chutti. Right? He does not take any chutti. It does not matter what's going on. He will always rise. It is his dharma to rise from the east and to set in the west. He will do that no matter what. Earth has to revolve and rotate around on its axis every single second. At no point of time, Earth says, not today. I'll start from tomorrow. There is no law of nature that stops. The day it will stop is the day there is pralaya. Right? So Bhagwanji makes sure that he does his karma yoga like a true karma yogi every single day to show us how we should be leading our lives. He leads by example. And that's something for us to do anusaran of as well. For us to teach our children. We don't teach them by saying stuff. We teach them through our actions. Live the life you want to talk to children about. They follow what we do, not what we say. Similarly, in our teams, we are leading teams, we are leading companies. We must lead by example. Our team members are seeing what we do on a daily basis, how we speak, how we conduct ourselves, how we produce work, how we behave in various situations. Lead by example, just like Ram leads by example. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else wants to go? Yeah.
Okay. I think something which you have been saying in all our classes is that the essence of everything is Bhagwanji. And scriptures is important for me, I feel, is because when you did say in the class that it cleanses our antakaran. And I feel that when you read spiritual texts and scriptures, your thoughts are more elevated, and that negates or that takes away a lot of our negative thoughts, and hence uh, fills you more or keeps you more connected with God, or your higher self. So a very strong takeaway is to continue reading the scriptures, take out time daily to do, even if 5 minutes, 10 minutes of that, because that is very powerful, and that will help me navigate a lot of negative thoughts or negative experiences that come along the way.
100%, 100% Kakuli. In fact, the more, and this is, I'm speaking from my own experience, okay? When I had started out on this journey and people would say, you have to do this, you have to do that, my first thought was, boss, time kahan hai? Look at my life. It's super busy, dude. Like, I have no time. I don't even get to spend enough time with my kid. Like, what are you talking about? Right? That's the first thought. Once you start doing swadhyay, once you start doing the upasanas that are being asked of us, I realized that as a part of this antakaran ki shuddhi, your ability to see things, to hear things, to understand things becomes sharper. And your ability to deliver becomes much faster. Whatever I used to take 2 hours to do is now getting done in much lesser time. That automatically frees up more time, which, by the way, if you are not aware of, will get filled anyway. It will get filled with TV, it will get filled with gossip, it will get filled with phone conversations. There are hundreds of different ways to fill up that time if you're not conscious. Another thing I became extremely conscious of are like ways in which I waste time, which I wasn't aware of at all before. And I was like, wow, I actually have a lot of time on my hands, which I can utilize to do my swadhyay. And as you do more and more of that, your ability to do more and more upasana, swadhyay will constantly increase without having any impact on the other activities you're doing. If anything, you will become more efficient in all other activities you're supposed to do in the rest of your life. Nothing will get dropped off except that which is absolute fact. That which is not good for you, that will drop off, and it will drop off without any pain of leaving it. Thank you. Anita, you were going to share something?
Yeah, the thing that you talked about, Ganga. So that you brought in a very good point about like Ganga being the Jnana Yoga. So you know how it is connected, like the Karma Yoga and the Bhakti Yoga is just the beginning, and then the Jnana Yoga is the ultimate goal that we'll have to achieve, and the self-realization happens after that. That's a beautiful way to look at it. So I was like, I never made the connection before until when you started talking about it. It just clicked. Yeah, that's right. And also you made a good point about even in your Jnana Yoga, your Bhakti Yoga is still working on the side. So you need to be engaged in the Bhakti Yoga side as well when you are in the, when you are in that mode of Jnana Yoga. So it's a very good, thing that one caught my eye.
Absolutely. So at no point of time think that any of these three are enough by themselves. Okay. True Gyan will automatically cause you to become a much better Karma Yogi and a much stronger Bhakt. It will automatically increase the Bhakti, the Shraddha you have. That's true Gyan. If you don't have true Gyan and you only are working off knowledge based from others and you entrust it with blind faith, it will create all kinds of problems. First of all, at some point of time, you will get confused, you will generate wrong knowledge eventually, and you will end up in a space where you will end up doing empty rituals without knowing why you're doing them and how it's supposed to further help you in the path of acquiring the right knowledge. Okay. So you need Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Gyan Yoga all together. And once you've gone through one line of Gita and you start that all over again, your first 6 chapters will make so much more sense because you've read the last 12 chapters. And then when you come to the next round of Bhakti Yoga, you'll be like, oh, wow, okay, now I understand this way more, because by now your stance of being a Karma Yoga, your actual implementation of Karma Yoga has become so much stronger than the first time. So automatically your Bhakti will rise. You will start to see how this becomes self-reinforcing mechanisms for each other. Ultimately, everything has to reach that level of self-realization, that knowledge of self-perception that Bhagwanji says is him. Absolutely. Thank you. Who wants to go next? Naina? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the most striking thing was what Kakoli said about the water experiment in her life, which I'll probably look into further. And then another thing was how you described the difference between the avatars of Krishna and Rama. And I never really thought about, gave it a thought, like what was why was, I mean, me and my kids are watching Mahabharata these days. So there were questions about Krishna doing certain things, even with during the war, and why he was doing it. And then when you think about like you said, the different yogas and the difference between the avatars, that is the key thing for me today. And that is, yeah, those are the main things for me. Yeah, I want to keep looking into it further.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you. Bhageshri and you want to share?
Yeah. So I guess in this chapter, last few shlokas, we have been reading that how God is everywhere in all, like in everything. Like here we saw God is the air, then we read about Ganga, then in every creation, in every logic, every perception of how God is everywhere, but we should be able to see that, that God is everywhere. It's like, have you said that we all living beings are breathing the same air? We are breathing the same thing, and that is how we are taking in God, and God is in all of us. So that is one thing. And oh, I have a question. So when you said that about anger, that how when you get angry, there's negativity and how it can change things around you. So is anger ever justified? I mean, if I get angry, I could get angry because of a valid reason, right? Maybe if I am angry about a certain thing a person did, and I feel strongly that what the person did is not correct, and I feel angry. So is it ever justified, or is it like we should never get angry at all?
Good question.
So,
So-
let me just ask a follow-up question here. What do you define as anger?
Yeah, that's anger when you feel it, your feelings changes, your face expression changes, you feel like irritation, agitation, you want to shout, you want to correct the other person, you want to tell what you feel, you want to change what is happening because you know what you know is the truth, maybe.
Perfect. So, I think when you were sharing this, all of us were nodding because all of us have experienced it, right? In exactly the same way. You have that rise in energy, you have your face feeling flushed, and you want to correct, and you want to. If that's your definition of anger, then in no situation should that exist. Because at that situation, your emotion has completely taken over. Forget your mental being, it's taken over your entire physical being. And if that's the case, then there is no, your buddhi, your intellect has been completely clouded by that emotion. So that's a state of anger that no one should ever reach. Right? Because you feel that entire anger, as they say in Gita chapter 3, because of a desire or an attachment. That's why you feel that level of anger. If you get upset because someone did something, and you can feel that, oh, you know what, this is bothering me, but are able to use that data point and then use your intellect on what is the best way for me to communicate back. So Tuhina will share how she does it with Vedant, for example, where Vedant knows Mama is upset, but Mama has not become upset. She's using that as a way to maybe raise her voice, to maybe have a sterner voice, to all of those things, to communicate it. But it's not flying off the handle.
Anger is an energy. It's a very strong energy. It has a lot of energy. If you are a person who experiences a lot of anger, not everybody does, okay? If you are a person who experiences a lot of anger, understand that you have a lot of energy inside of you. It will never go away. Its purpose is not to go away. You have to transform anger, okay? You have to transform the energy to not come out as anger, but to come out in more productive ways. Okay? In Shlok 2.63, in English book here on page 63,
They have a different.
the shloka says, 2.63 shloka says, क्रोधाद भवति सम्मोह, सम्मोहात् सम्मोहा स्मृतिर विभ्रम, स्मृतिर भ्रांशा बुद्धिनाशो, बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. Okay, that alone will give you the answer to whether you should experience anger the way you're talking about it. There are two parts to this. One is experience of anger and its expression. And the second thing is, what about anger as an energy concept? Okay. So first of all, the experience of anger is exactly what Abhinav said. If you're experiencing, if you're allowing anger to overtake you as an emotion, there's an energy which then gets converted into this emotion, which is overtaken you, and it has overtaken your buddhi, your intellect completely. What happens? We end up saying stuff we don't really mean. When we calm down, we'll always say, sorry, I didn't mean that. I was overtly harsh. I was using too many statements that are not always true. We'll say, you're always this kind of a person. You're always like this. You're always doing these kind of things, which are actually not true, right? People make mistakes. They happen sometimes, but we generalize them. We label people. You are a lazy person. That's why you did this, right? We label people. So we say a lot of stuff that is actually wrong when we are angry. And in turn, we hurt ourselves through that burning energy. We are burning inside. Our heartbeat is faster. The blood pressure goes up. We are actually burning ourselves inside. Every part of us is burning inside. Okay. And when we get burnt up, when they show the Devi who is extremely angry and she gets angry to go and kill her enemies, they show her as Kali. Her entire skin has burnt off. She's black. That's the effect of anger. It is fire that burns. You should be very careful of where you use that energy. Do you want to burn up yourself, or do you want to burn a particular vritti? You want to direct it to the correct use case. Okay? You will need to figure out why anger exists in your life and in what form it has to be channelized. In a lot of ways, when you channelize anger, the energy of anger correctly, it will come out as himmat, as abhay, as being nidar. Okay? First of all, the most important thing. So I deal with anger myself. For me, it is one of my life projects to deal with anger, right? Last 10 years, I've been working towards like making sure that I channelize the energy correctly. If you, first rule of thumb, never ever use anger for people who are weaker than you. Ever. It's a no, complete no. The amount of pap you will incur on yourself is huge. People who are dependent on you, where old people who are dependent on you can't fight back, your children, small, younger children, people under you in your team, your helper, people weaker than you use anger against them is absolute no. Use anger. You use anger once for somebody who's more powerful than you. You will be cured of anger for the rest of your life. But anger, when channelized in this format to talk to people who are your equals or to deal with situations more powerful than you, comes out as himmat, as strength. Convert that anger into your strength to walk the right path. It's a massive energy. So you cannot put water over it. It exists in you for a reason. Bhagwanji has given it to you. Can you convert it into a vibhuti? That is the course of action to be taken. Find where it needs to be channelized.
Another example which Abhinav gave that was also quite means I could relate to it. Like when we talk about science, right? He talked about atom, then nucleus, then there are photons, and how it's constantly changing. So that was a good thing to relate it. And then also how what we talked about water, and the same goes with food also. How we should energize it with mantra. For months I've been thinking to first offer whatever I'm going to eat, offer it to God first, as in put it in front of the God for a few minutes. I've been thinking to do it since months maybe, but I have not started doing it. But yeah, I think that is what I know, but I am not able to do it. but I think, yeah, it's coming back to me. I'm hearing it again and again, but maybe at some point I'll start. Yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah.
I want to talk a lot more about this. I'll bring it up, but it's 11:59, so I won't. But we'll talk about this next in our next class. We'll start with this. Okay. We have Anmol and Rituj left for sharing their takeaways, but in the interest of time in the Anushthan and because Anita is awake for us now, so we won't take the thing right now. After we complete the Anushthan, if Anmol and Rituj, you can share your takeaways on the group, that would be wonderful. Okay. Thank you. So we'll end the class here. We'll do the closing shlokas. And yeah, let's do that.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ